Welcome back, my friends, to the podcast that never ends. Yes, this is the Blue Day podcast, and for Chelsea fans everywhere, every day is a Blue Day. I am your host, the creator, and the man with a face for podcasting, Keith Lawrence. And this summer long, the podcast has been on a world tour, speaking to different supporters clubs from across the globe that are addicted to Chelsea just as much as we are here on the podcast. Speaking to people from Atlanta, Kiev and South Wales. This week we are joined by Adam Robinson, there you go, and Thomas Wheatley of the Eastern Blues Supporters Club. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How are you both? Take two, as they say in theatre.
I'm good, cheers Keith, thanks for having us.
I'm good, thanks. A little bit sticky and hot on this hot day, but good.
Well, we thought we'd do it in the evening rather than the height of the day, whereby we would be probably melting at this point.
It's definitely been a sticky one.
Thank you very much for coming on to the show. I appreciate you guys spending your time with us on the show today. Wanted to sort of talk about your particular supporters club as it stands right now, and we'll sort of to start it off. You know, how did the Eastern Blues Supporters Club start? What was the origins of it? And
so Eastern Blues sort of started in 2009. There had been other clubs in Norfolk and Suffolk that had sort of come and gone. I was actually, when I was a young boy, I was actually a member of another club. But I think it's sort of, I guess people who run them move on sometimes, and you know, and things like that happen, and they sort of end up folding. But there's actually a guy called Joe Tyler who started Eastern Blues, like I say, in 2009. I think it was really trying to get people together and travel to, you know, making travel to games easier, like creating like a Chelsea community in our area. We live, you know, in the back end of nowhere type thing. So getting to London is difficult on the train. There's always like, you know, rail replacement buses or works on the line. So it's like, you know, that was, I think, the main purpose of starting the club really, or, you know, what we now like 13 years ago. So it's sort of flown really. And from then has progressed, and I think we're now sort of one of the biggest UK clubs, and you know, sort of sitting all the top tiers that Chelsea offer for supporters clubs. So it's been a interesting journey, really.
And did you get a lot of sort of pushback at the start? You know, what was the sort of, in regards to when you guys started the club, did it take a while for the club to get going, or did it sort of get accelerated in terms of membership quite quickly?
I think initially it was, like slow, you know, he was trying to get the word out there. And I think as you get people find out about it, I think Joe done some advertising in local newspapers and stuff around here. Like, bearing in mind it's 13 years ago, obviously there was the internet around, but it was still like, you know, a while ago from now. And it just sort of started to grow slowly. But as you get more people in the group, it's like, you know, a sort of spider's web in a way, isn't it? Like one person tells five, and those five, you know, almost related back to the COVID thing about, you know, how it spreads. Like in a way it's like that. And over the years, you know, I think it was about 2011, like when we sort of 2012 when we got the platinum status, which we had to have 110 members for. So it did accelerate reasonably quickly, but you know, it was quite a bit of legwork put in to get us there, really.
And in terms of the group as well, you know, when it came to match days, was there a sort of an opportunity for you guys to maybe hire a coach, or did you guys perhaps, when you said about the trains, did you sort of look to go on the trains together to, because I know from, for example, from Norwich to London, it can be a strenuous journey. It's straightforward, but it bloody takes ages. Was there sort of like a little bit of an issue with that, or was it a case of one person gets in the car and someone rides shotgun?
There was a bit of everything really, a bit of car sharing, you know, like especially in the early days when, you know, you just would be a couple of cars full of you, and then it sort of grew to minibuses. And then now, like these days, I think last season we ran like coaches to like 20 games. We took a coach to Lille, the away match in Lille last year as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's sort of gone from one end to the other, you know. But yeah, like I say, the trains are pretty much a nightmare from Norwich. So it's quite nice. I think a lot of people like it. You can just jump on the coach, and you know, after game we jump back on it, and we haven't got to worry about tubes and trains and all that sort of stuff. So.
And for those that perhaps don't go to the games because of travel or because of other commitments, what would a typical match day be like? Do you guys perhaps go to a particular bar, pub to watch the game, or do you go to other people's houses? What would sort of like a match day be like if you guys weren't going to Chelsea?
If he wasn't going to Chelsea, sometimes, like, to be honest, we sort of like have quite a few members at every game, I would say. But sometimes we've done like screenings, Tom, haven't we? You know, when like Chelsea played Arsenal in the final in Baku, you know, that was a long way. Like we done a screening in a local pub, and there's about 100 people there, and we all got together and watched it, and had quite a good time.
Yeah, we've done it occasionally. If like Malmo away this last year, I think there was about 20 people went to the bar and or had a day and sort of mimicked our European away schedule, going from bar to bar. And then a few of us came to watch it. And I think, as Adam said, that Europa League final, and also I think the Super Cup we had as well. So occasionally we do have things. I think during COVID as well, a few people got together, didn't they, to watch some of like the FA Cup semi-finals or the Champions League semi-finals. And we had actually the Champions League final. We went to a pub just in Suffolk and had a marquee outside, and I think there was probably over 100 people there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think that was the rules at the time. It was outside.
all within COVID protocol, of course. But that was a really good experience because, you know, not many people could be out there due to the circumstances, but to be able to all be together for the Champions League final made it actually quite a real special occasion, really.
And that must have been kind of special when Havertz scored and the final whistle blew, that you guys weren't just on your own watching the game, you was with fellow Chelsea supporters and you was seeing it live that Chelsea would win another European Cup. That must have been pretty special.
Yeah, it was great, really. I think like you know, these people are like people you spend a lot of time with, and they almost become like a second family. So sort of like when you have one of those special moments, to do it or to share it with those people is like, you know, great. It makes it even more special and memorable. We always like jokingly say like when you join Eastern Blues, you become one of the Eastern Blues family. So it's quite, you know, like, yeah, it's great, really.
Yeah, I was a bit of a late joiner to the Eastern Blues. I think it was about 2017, so I can say that it's true. Over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I've really got to know people like Adam and a lot of others in the club and become like my Chelsea family.
So you'd say Eastern Blues is very sociable, you know, people get on and you sort of, you know, have, as you say, family vibes. You'd say that would be a special club.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I think that's because of sort of the events that, you know, Adam and other officials organise. So having like we said, like the Champions League final, but also Legends Night. But then through having travelled to like every away game and quite a few home games, you get to know people through, you know, a long journey up from Norfolk to Liverpool is not the most enjoyable or quickest. So you get to know people through that, and you get regular faces, and yeah, you just sort of become part of the family. Everyone's very welcoming and inclusive. So it's just, yeah, everyone's very nice.
And in total, in regards to the group, what's the overall ambitions for the group? So, you know, you mentioned about it's on the platinum membership tier at the moment. You know, what's the overall ambition for the next maybe 3 to 5 years' time of the group?
I think it's probably really like that we just continue to sort of, you know, expand it, and there's still lots of people I think who don't know about it. Like, surprisingly, like there's lots of Chelsea fans, you know, that sort of south of Norfolk became a bit of an overspill from London and stuff over the years. So there's lots of Chelsea fans in this area, and sometimes you see them on the train and they haven't even heard of, you know, they're not aware of supporters clubs full stop. Or so, you know, to keep growing it and sort of building the club, and, you know, getting as many people involved as possible, and doing the coaches and the travel, and yeah, just continue going where we are, really doing like the charity, or continuing the charity work that we've done over the years. We sort of, as a club, try to do like stuff in the local area that can make a difference as well. So we sort of raised, I think it's about £13,000 now over the last few years for local charities. And we had like an event planned for 2020. It got postponed, obviously, for obvious reasons, that we're going to do hopefully next year. It's just really continuing on the sort of trajectory that we're on, really. I think it's like, we can't obviously achieve any more, like, as in, we're already a platinum club. We're already, as in Chelsea, have this scheme that we're already at 1,000 supporters club, which means we've got over 1,000 digital members. So we've sort of reached them heights already, but it's just continuing, I think, to build on those and the other things we just sort of mentioned.
And the ticketing tier is obviously the same, because I know certain clubs have different ticketing structures as well about what they are allocated in terms of home and away games as well.
Yeah, so that's like where the bronze, silver, gold and platinum comes in.
Yeah.
So like we're a platinum club, so we get access to sort of a small number of away tickets. I think it's 150 that gets split between the entire list of platinum clubs, which is 32. So if 150 by 32, you don't get, it's not like you've taken like 50 people to away games. Obviously some people on the away scheme, some people have got buy their own ticket online if they miss out through the supporters club. So there's still other avenues that people obviously can use, and then they jump on the travel or so that, or we meet them up there. So you still like, trying to create that community. It's not all, obviously a big part of it is about going to games, of course, but it's also the other sort of bits around the edge as well that we try to do.
Now, fellow Chelsea supporters, the Blue Day podcast is now sponsored by Manscaped. They are the best in men's below the waist grooming, and their products are precision engineered tools to deal with your family jewels. Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. This includes the Lawnmower 4.0, more powerful than the lawnmowers you get in B&M's or Morrison's. It is a fantastic product that doesn't cut, it glides through. The Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer helps reduce nicks, snags and tugs in those delicate nose holes. This one is a winner in the Lawrence household, I can tell you. Plus, we have the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. This changes the way you approach your hygiene routine. You put deodorant under your pits, why not on your sack? Manscaped even throw in 2 free gifts in their performance packages. The Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to another level. Gentlemen, it's time to take care of yourself ahead of the new football season. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping when you put in the code BDP. That's right, BDP stands for Blue Day Podcast, and you will get 20% off and free shipping. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. Now, in terms of the supporters club, what type of contact has it had from Chelsea Football Club over the last few years in terms of trying to improve your supporters club, and also when it comes to giving out merchandise signed or whatnot? Have you had much sort of interaction with the club recently?
Yeah, probably it's best to say, just in case people thinking they're hearing a lot of my voice, like obviously I'm on the officials of the club and Tom's a member, so probably some of these earlier questions will be more me, and maybe later on, Tom will be able to share some of his stories of travelling. Just in case people get...
We're going to talk about with certain players. I'll let Tom speak his mind, don't worry.
Just in case they get bored of my voice, that's all. But yeah, so there's a couple of teams at Chelsea who we sort of work quite closely with. Like basically they've got teams dedicated to each scheme. So there's a ticketing sort of team that we work with, and then another team that we work for on the rewards sort of side of things, as they call it, like the digital side of things. So, but yeah, they're very helpful when you sort of need them to, and we do sort of get a pack of merchandise every year that relates to the tier of your club. So we get like a couple of signed shirts that we use for prizes and stuff like that for in the the membership. So for example, we've just done our renewal a couple of weeks ago for next season. So we'd offer like a signed shirt or a draw, to be an entrance into a draw to win a signed shirt if you renewed by a certain date. And then, there's a little lad I think he was 9 who won it, so he made his day. So that all goes to good, to sort of good causes type things. So but they are really supportive and help you grow your club. And if you've got questions or things they can help you with, then they will. So I think they're really supportive.
Now, last particular question on the club itself. If anybody that's listening to this that is from the area, this is the first time they've ever heard of the Eastern Blues, and I'm surprised if they would have. If anybody was interested in joining your club, how would they go about and join?
So we cover like Norfolk and Suffolk, and then all you need to do if you want to join is just go to our website, which is easternblues.co.uk, and you can just sign up through there. So you need to be a Chelsea member or a season ticket holder, and then you just go onto our website, sign up, pay your membership fee, and then you're in the club if you like, and you then start getting contact from the officials and stuff with information about tickets and travel and all the stuff that we do. So it's quite straightforward, and obviously we're across all the sort of social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've got like a really helpful committee member who runs all that for us, because obviously that becomes like a full-time job, as I'm sure you know, Keith, by doing the Blue Day podcast, social media. So so there's a group of us who sort of do that. But so just look us up on there and sign up.
Now, floor's going to be for both. So we're going to move on from the club. We're now going to talk about Chelsea as a whole. Gents, just to start off with, before we start having rants and rave about current Chelsea, when did you guys start following Chelsea? So what period of it did you start in your life? Do you remember the year? Do you remember the game that sort of appealed to you? The floor's yours, gents.
I guess I'll go first, as you've heard enough, Adam, for one night. I started supporting Chelsea in around 2000. So I am from Norfolk originally, and actually my parents are not Norwich fans, they're not Chelsea. So it was Gianfranco Zola for me that, just seeing him on the TV just spellbounded me into supporting Chelsea. And the first game really that I remember vividly was that Barcelona quarter-final game at Stamford Bridge. We won 3-1. So I was only young, so my dad let me stay up late and watched that and was hooked thereafter. And when I was young, of course, wasn't able to get to many games, but as I've got older and been able to go down to London on my own, tried to go to as often as possible.
For me, obviously, I'm a little bit older than Tom, not much, but slightly. It was my dad. So in the 1970 Chelsea Leeds Cup final, which the FA Cup final seems to be quite a common story that you hear, I think, of people of that era, that he decided, whoever won that game was who he was going to support. So luckily for us, obviously it turned out to be Chelsea. And then, me and my brother, it sort of passed down through us, and we're both big Chelsea fans. I think it's the first sort of game that I sort of really remember was the when Gus Poyet scored like the volley. Was it against Sunderland or Aston Villa? Or maybe I'm getting it completely wrong. I can't remember who it's against now. But that was the first. Was it Sunderland?
I think it was Sunderland.
Yeah.
First game of the season. 99-2000 season, I believe it was.
So that's the first really in my vivid memory as such. But like, obviously, I would have been probably about 4. I was have been at 14 then. So, but when I was like younger, we used to watch it on TV. I used to have the Mark Stein. I remember having the tangerine and graphite shirt with Mark Stein on the back, and my brother had John Spencer. So they were our 2 favourite players growing up. But we would, it was difficult to go when you're sort of that young, and it was expensive and stuff. So when we started to go when we was a little bit older, that's the first sort of real goal that sticks in my mind, if you know what I mean.
And that was a top kit as well, that away kit.
Yeah, it's like a classic now, isn't it?
Oh my goodness! Could you imagine if they actually got the balls to actually make a kit like that now?
Certainly bold.
We're going to meltdown, I'm sure.
Well, if you look at the state of the kits now, I don't particularly think the Amiga 94 away kit was that bad. But in regards to sort of your first time going to the bridge, what was that feeling like for you guys? Whether it was seeing it in 2000 or seeing it sort of later on when you saw like Zola play live and when you saw Hasselbank and players like Wise as well being the captain? Do you remember much of those memories?
So the first time I went was in 2004, actually. So my dad actually, it was Chelsea versus Norwich. I had to sit in the away end, which was then in the East Stand, but I still went crazy when I think we were 3-0 up within half an hour. Duff, Robin and Lampard, and then Jogba scored in the second half.
That's right. I went to that game. I remember that one very well. Yes.
So yeah, just being able to go for the first, and I think seeing as we were at the time, an elite, team. Probably, well, we were the best in the league. It was, I'd grown up watching and going to Norwich games in the Championship or in Division 1 as it was called back then. So to actually see, the creme de la creme was like, wow, this is a different level, and really, yeah, was a really incredible experience. It just made me want to go more and more. But yeah, I had to wait until I was older and able to make my way there because my dad wouldn't probably go along himself to Chelsea.
Yeah, for me, I guess I can remember, it's so completely different now, but being outside the bridge and when the players used to walk down, sort of to the East Stand, to the entrance, and you'd be able to sort of hover around there and get the odd autograph and stuff like that. And you see people like Zola walking down, and then all that sort of era is when you could sort of, or just before then is when you could do that sort of stuff. And me and my dad and my brother would we were quite young, we'd just be waiting around there trying to sort of grab one of the players as they come down. But yeah, it's really, as a young kid, it was sort of your dream to go there and to meet your heroes as well, which is great. And that's nice that we can help people do that now by going to games and see their the children in the club now live that, almost like you relive that through them in a way, which is great to see.
And it's good as well because of you guys being associated with the supporters club, you're able to maybe have better access through Chelsea in terms of seeing players, because I know there's certain times, obviously this was before COVID, that you used to be able to do open days at the training ground. So there would be certain sort of times where certain supporters clubs would be able to go to the training ground, and whether or not you was 10 years old or 30 years old, you'd still be able to watch players that you'd be huge fans of being able to train there in the flesh.
Yeah, I think it's obviously changed a lot now. It's a lot harder to get any access like that. We sort of like I was saying before we sort of started the show, but we have players up to Norwich and try and get even some of the younger guys or the younger guys and girls, I should say, that they don't necessarily remember people like Kerry Dixon. We've had Chopper Harris. They don't necessarily remember. Obviously, they weren't born, but they're still really intrigued to listen to their stories, and and that's great as well that you can see that the history almost imparted on those people as well.
And it's the Chelsea feeling as well, because when you look at, say for example, when you've gone with your dad or you've gone with your brother to one of these events, and then your brother or dad or whoever knows who that particular legend is, whether it's Kerry Dixon or Ron Harris or Pat Nevin, for example, you start feeling a bit of affinity with that particular player because he's making the family member you're with happy. So I think that's pretty special as well. So it, as you say, having that as a connection is pretty good. But in terms of Chelsea for today, and this is probably where we're going to be about 2 hours or 3 hours in the conversation, Thomas Tuchel has been in charge now for a little bit. He's trying to get a little bit of his tactics, and he's trying to get certain players implemented into his style. Obviously, we will talk about the new ownership in a minute, but what have you made of Thomas Tuchel? Are you a fan of him? Do you feel that he could have done better on certain occasions? What's your take on Mr. Tuchel, gents?
I think I'm a big fan of him. I think obviously everybody was gutted, like when Frank got sacked. Because of the connection that he's got with the club and the fans, and maybe looking back in hindsight, you could think of it as another manager. They probably wouldn't have, been given as much loyalty, but from the fans type thing. But so yeah, when Thomas came in, obviously he had a difficult situation, didn't he, to try and turn it around from everybody being, gutted about what had happened. But I think he's done really well, and hopefully he can stay for a long time. He seems that the club appear to be backing, or at least letting him sort of decide who he wants and stuff like that, whereas maybe that was a bit different before in the previous regime. So hopefully that works out, well, and makes him want to stay as well,
Yeah, I agree. I do like him a lot. I think he's done a good job, and I think sometimes because of how good Liverpool and Man City have been, we can look at that bar and think we're, not doing too well, but, we were comfortably in the top 4 last season, easily probably the 3rd best team in the league. We had big injuries throughout the season to Reece James and to Chilwell for a lot of periods. And we were comfortably in there. And in the Champions League, we went toe-to-toe with Real Madrid, who went on to win it and probably should have won really on the night in Madrid. So I think he's a fantastic man, but tactically, I think he's very good. He's, can, on those one-off games, can really get a plan to stop anyone, really. I think it's just finding that consistency that we need over a whole season when we play not this year, but a Burnley at home, and been able to sort of break them down and get that sort of second goal. But I think we've been able to see sort of the power of the man in how he dealt with the sanction situation, really. He was left alone to be the spokesman of the club, and he's just the manager, and, he dealt with it with, supreme class, really, and was a great ambassador for the club in that period of time. So a lot of managers would have probably, with all the uncertainty, would have, walked away, I'd imagine. So I think, giving him the chance now, as it looks like, to bring in some of his own players and build his own squad, I think that, give him a chance, give him, to see how it goes. I think he could build something really special, really, personally, but remains to be seen.
And it's interesting that you mentioned with Tuchel about bringing his own players in. It's a lot different now to what it was under the previous regime with Todd Bowley coming in. I've been a little bit sceptical of him in regards to not his intentions, but actually how he's going to run things and whether or not he partly knows what he's doing. But that's another conversation for another time, and it's too hot to go into the weeds on that. But I do want to talk to you two about his transfer business so far, and the fact we've brought in Raheem Sterling, we've brought in Koulibaly, we're looking at Jules Koundé as well from Seville as we are recording this, and there's talks about other players potentially coming in. It seems a little bit different, and whether or not you two will agree with me on this is the fact that it doesn't seem to be any sort of club influence signings. So it's not like Todd's ringing Mr. Tuchel up and going, I like this player, we're going to sign him. It seems more Tuchel has given Todd a list of names. Todd's gone, leave me to deal with it, I'll deal with it. And he's brought in the players. You can just see with Raheem Sterling, that looked a Tuchel signing.
I think he even said that, didn't he? Obviously, I know, that has come out through Chelsea's sort of official outlets, but he said that he, that was it. Sterling was at the top of his list to sign it, and they've delivered it for him. So I think that's all he can ask it for, isn't it? Really, and I think before, with previous signings, mentioning no names, have been in situations where, because of the cost and probably the direction of where the direction to buy him has come from, it's probably almost been enforced on the manager that player has to play regardless of, with it, not 100%, but you see what I'm saying, within reason. It's like they almost feel like they have to play them regardless of form or anything else or what anybody else in the squad is doing. I don't think that can be conducive to a good, a good team. type thing, because everybody should be playing on merit, shouldn't they, and performance, not just because we've paid 90 million or whatever it might be for someone.
No names.
Yeah.
No names, but you mentioned the transfer fee. That's interesting.
I think that has been the case for not just that signing who was mentioned, but maybe during Frank's time when that summer during the COVID season we signed about 5 or 6 players. I don't think all of them were who he would have really wanted, and therefore it felt like he was trying to fit them into his plan, and I think that was ultimately probably the demise of why it went wrong in that situation, because he'd been put, there was certain players who were sort of low hanging fruit because of the COVID situation, so they were brought in, but they weren't really part of how Frank wanted to play his team. So hopefully, with the manager being able to have more of a driving force in the transfers and build a squad and a team that can really challenge and be a bit more fluid. Sometimes it has felt a bit like square pegs in round holes at times.
Are you happy, gents, with the transfer business so far in terms of incomings and outgoings? And is there one player in particular that you would like Chelsea to bring in, and one player that you would pack their bags for them and tell them to get the F out today? What's the one player on each?
I'll let you go first, Tom, if you want.
Who would I really? I think the one player I'd love to have, because I feel like it's a big position for us, is midfield, and it's probably Declan Rice. Premier League experience. He's shown that he's an elite level player, and I think brings some physicality into our midfield, which I think second half of the season you started to see with Jorginho and Kante's injuries. We looked quite, compared to the top teams, quite weak there. So he would be someone I think would be who I'd really love to get in. Don't think it will happen this year, but maybe next. Someone I'd really like to get rid of. I don't know. Bakayoko.
Well, the police have been trying to do that, so I think that's. I think that one's nearly halfway done, to be honest.
We did have a little joke that we thought he got pulled over for impersonating a footballer.
No. No, you can't.
Probably harsh, but
you can't say things like that. But
I think there's a few players I would like to get rid of just because of the sort of wages in the books. Players like Barkley, Bakayoko, Batshuayi, players like that who, if you got rid of those players, you're freeing up almost 300 odd grand of wages a week just through those players who, don't offer anything to the squad apart from maybe a bit of loan fee every season. But otherwise, I think it would be just nice to have a bit of a freshen up in one of those forward positions as well. So maybe Ziyech or Werner. I'm just talking about the whole squad now, aren't I?
that's fine. That's nothing wrong. You're one of many people that have been asking the question, why are these players still at the club? Adam, what about you?
I think for me, I'd like to see, I know it's almost like, it doesn't ever happen for Chelsea, but to get like a top quality striker in who can put away 20, 25 goals a season. It's a bit late now, isn't it? Like for someone like Lewandowski or, just someone who's, you sort of almost can guarantee, like when we had a Drogba or Costa or someone like that, who you could think, okay, like they'll get us out of trouble, or we have Hazard slightly different, but it'd always give you a goal if you sort of needed one. I don't think we sort of lacked that since those sort of players have moved on and retired and stuff like that. But to go, I would say, I don't know, I wouldn't, there's obviously players that are coming towards probably the end of their, peak type thing, but they're obviously like very legends of the club, some of them and stuff. So I wouldn't say I want them to go, but, it's almost like sentimental, you want them to stay. But I guess it's like goes around to sort of what Tom mentioned before, that there's only we don't know how it's going to turn out under the new sort of ownership, but there's only a definitive amount of money, isn't there, in the pot, I guess, for wages and stuff. So sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture for the club as well. But I wouldn't like to mention no names because, sentimentally, I'd love them to stay forever. So yeah. Sorry, I sat on the fence for that question.
You did sit on the fence. You sat on the fence so much you dented it.
Well, has been locked down.
Good response. I like that. Final question. Final question, gents. And again, thanks very much for coming on this evening. What does Chelsea Football Club mean to you, and what are your predictions for the forthcoming season?
Do you want me to go first? I can. What does Chelsea mean to me? It's probably my first love, and still, true love. And I don't know. I think when it's been my most difficult times in life, that's when I decided I think I want to go and go to Chelsea games a lot more, and it was sort of the crutch that kept me sort of positive and going in life, really. Somewhere to go and vent and swear, usually at like Mike Dean or someone like that, or Scousers. So yeah, it's been some really joyous experiences and places where I've been able to, come to Stamford Bridge feeling quite low, but at the end of the night feeling on top of the world because of being able to watch Chelsea and win. And then through meeting and joining the Eastern Blues, getting friends and more of a family who you can go and share matches and experiences with has been, it's a very big part of my life, and can't imagine it without it, really, without Chelsea and the supporters club. In terms of for the season ahead, I think we'll probably come third. And we might win a cup, maybe. I think we've been, over the last few years, a lot better cup team than we have in the league. So on our day, we're very difficult to beat. So hopefully the FA Cup, because I've been to Wembley too many times recently and lost. So I don't want to do that again.
You, me, both. Especially last season. That was dreadful.
No penalties, please.
No.
It's a long way home after results like that, isn't it, on a cup final day?
Well, I was going to say, especially from where you guys are from as well. I sort of moaned, and I live in Kent. It must have been worse for you guys, especially.
Very sombre coach both times, from they say.
Yeah, for me, I think it just like it's like your sort of happy place, like the thing that you look forward to. You think not go every single week, but you think you're going through the week. You're looking forward to that weekend to go and support your team and go like to sort of Stamford Bridge, or it might be an away game or wherever it might be. But going to the Bridge, you always get excited about going there, no matter how many times you go. It's like sort of I think you just always. You can never fail to feel happy on the way there, at least anyway. It's not always the same sometimes when you leave, but yeah, meeting up with your friends and stuff like that, which just like builds up even more, like it's seeing your mates having a good time. And we sort of jokingly sometimes say, like, don't let the football ruin a day at the football, if you know what I mean. Like if the result is bad, you still try and have a good time and with your mates and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely been a big part of my life, like doing what we do now, with the club and stuff, it's all worth it to see people go and that on their, the smile on their faces. So, and yeah, this season, top four, hopefully third, hopefully first, but, in an ideal world, but definitely top four, and like, I think, like Tom said, hopefully a cup this season. We can turn, the disappointment round of the last couple of years into actually winning, at Wembley anyway, winning, one of the domestic cups, and hopefully a decent run in the Champions League. We were so close last year in a way, and like on another day in Madrid, we probably would have, turned them over almost like, when you look back at 2012 when we, with Barcelona, everything went against us on that night at the Nou Camp, and we still done it. And it almost felt like that in Madrid, like we was up against it from the first leg, but we were so close to doing it, but just not quite there. But yeah, if we can just improve on that a little bit more and maybe go a bit further, that would be great.
Well, gentlemen, I think that's as far as we can go on this episode, but I appreciate your time on the show, both Adam and Thomas. Hopefully, you'll enjoy the rest of the heat wave and don't get too fried. And hopefully, I'll see you down at the bridge for the forthcoming season with a few pints in our hands and singing "Blue is the Colour" on a few occasions. How's that?
Sounds good. Cheers, Keith. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and that sounds perfect.
No problem. You guys take it easy.
Cheers.